It's Andy Mania, and Andy Ruiz says he wants to be as big as Canelo or even bigger. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Jump right into it. If you're new, consider subscribing to the channel. Andy Ruiz, it is Andy Mania. Everybody's talking about it still. You know, there's been other fights like Triple G versus Rolls. You know, wasn't a big fight. Tyson Fury's fighting this weekend, not really a big fight against Tom Schwartz. And people are still talking about what Andy Ruiz did in the Joshua fight. And, you know, that's pretty much the biggest news in boxing still. And I think it caught a lot of people off guard. Andy Ruiz really put on. He did it for Mexico. He did it for Mexican Americans. He did it for boxing. He did it for himself. You know, Andy Ruiz has a great story. I don't really see how you can't like the guy. You know, he defied all odds. He has a great underdog Cinderella man story. He said he was even considering quitting boxing at one point, you know, and then he decided to stick with it, give it one more shot, and the rest is history. Now, Andy Ruiz did an interview with ESPN Deportes. A link in the description. He just met up with the president. You know, it's all clicking for him right now. And it says Mexico. And let's jump into it. Andy Ruiz wants to be like Canelo, Álvarez, or bigger. Mexico. Once Andy Ruiz achieved something that many thought would be impossible, he trumpeted to everyone that there's no impossibility and that one can go as far as he proposes as a new face of Mexican boxing, you know. And one of Andy's last dates on Mexico or on Mexican soil before returning to his residency in California, the heavyweight multi-champion spoke to another reference to tricolor pugilism, Canelo Álvarez. This is what Ruiz says. I want to be like Canelo or even bigger, Andy said in a conversation with ESPN inside the facilities of the Mexican Olympic Sports Center. I want to help people, families, children. It's a big dream to be a world champion, and I want to help them and support all the boxers. Canelo is the current face of Mexican boxing in the company of other fighters of very high caliber. You know, Andy Ruiz. There's also champions like Juan Francisco Estrada, Miguel Berchel, Oscar Valdez, Gilberto Ramirez, etc. And on the idea of losing weight, Manny Robella's Andy Ruiz trainer said that it's a good idea, but we must not forget this is boxing, not bodybuilding. And he assured that this is precisely the physics that made Andy a great, yeah. Anyway, hold on, let me pause this so we don't get a copyright. Anyway, Andy Ruiz, great likable story in the sport of boxing. I'm really happy for him, happy for boxing. This really shook up boxing. It really did. And I like what happened. I like a good underdog story. And the way Andy Ruiz, you know, how humble he is, how down to earth he is. You know, he walked out to Nipsey. He's doing right by his community. You know, he still seems grounded. He's like, man, I got to pinch myself just to see that this is not a dream. Like, he's real cool, chill. And I think the way Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn kind of played their hand, they were almost like tyrants in the heavyweight division. And they used Joshua's accolades and milestones and accomplishments and kind of dangled him over everyone's head. Obviously, Wilder was pushing for the fight, and Team Joshua said, oh, you don't deserve 50-50, you know. And there was big back and forth banter about splits and, you know, come sign to DAZN for multiple fights to fight me. And it was just a mess. Now Andy Ruiz is living the dream, and he's one fight away of that not being the focal point. I think Andy Ruiz doing this really shook up the division, and it shook up boxing. This should be a cautionary tale for promoters and the people in suits to not lag, not stall, and make the fights that the fans are asking for, because you never know when an Andy Ruiz or a Julian J. Rock Williams is going to emerge and then play spoiler. Tony Harrison recently. There's a lot of people who have beaten champions that the perception was they would not beat them. You know, even look at Andrew Cancio versus Machado. This has happened a lot, both in all combat sports, UFC as well as boxing in the last, 12 months. We've seen a lot of this. So it's a cautionary tale. I'm happy. You know, Andy Ruiz is one fight away, literally, from that not being the case. He's aligned with Al Heyman, you know, the most powerful guy in boxing. He has a good team. It looks like his team's intact. Wilder's aligned with Al Heyman. So if Andy Ruiz gets past his Joshua rematch, then we probably won't have to worry about it. You know, and it looks like Top Rank's working with Al Heyman. They have pretty much the principle of a deal for a Wilder Fury 2 rematch. And this is what the focus should be. And I really feel that Team Joshua kind of made it about like the back and forth. They had like, you know, a cash cow and a big piece and all the belts except for one. So they had a large chunk of real estate. And now it's just open land. You know, the possibilities are endless. Before, Eddie Hearn and Joshua were the neighbors, and they're like, oh no, you can't build this right here. You know, we need 50-50. No, that's not good enough. You know, we're not giving you 50. And there was a lot of this. Everything I've heard from Andy Ruiz, he's not talking like this. He's talking about, I want to help the families. I want to help children. Hey, kids, dream big. No more picking on chubby people. You can do it. I mean, this did a lot for boxing and just like almost humanity, because he's such an underdog, and, you know, people discounted him so much, you know. So I'm happy. I'm happy for what this represents for boxing. Like I said, the promoters and networks should take heed to this. This keeps happening. They should definitely consider it. And I like Andy Ruiz is where his head's at. He says he wants to fight Joshua in Mexico, in the US. You know, he'll go to the UK, but they got to pay like they weigh if it happens there. And I don't know if Eddie Hearns and them, you know, covered their tracks in the rematch clause and detailed that, because they didn't expect to lose to this guy. But we're going to find out as the negotiations, you know, move forward. So it'll probably happen in the US or maybe even Mexico. And I just like Andy Ruiz's, he's not making the focus really even about just him. He's happy that the history, the lineage, like, I'm the first Mexican heavyweight. He's happy for what it represents for his people. He's happy not just for himself. Obviously, he's happy for himself, but he's happy to inspire and, you know, be that vessel that people can turn to as like a mark in time, you know, a historic mark, and be like, okay, this is possible. And he's, you know, he's thinking of bigger and better things. And I think it got to the point with Team Joshua where they were like kind of prima donnas of the heavyweight division, which hurts the heavyweight division because we didn't get the fights we want. Andy Ruiz said he'll fight with Tyson Fury. He said he'll fight with Deontay Wilder. So he got one more fight he has to get past. And then I see if he gets past it, based on his actions and his statements, we could look forward to some really good fights. You know, if he's going to fight Fury or he's down to fight Wilder, then, you know, you have to look at possible Adam Kaunowski, Chris Arreola winners, stuff like that. The possibilities are endless, and that's what I really like. So shout out to Andy Ruiz. He said he's going to be the next Canelo, and, you know, he just really shook up the world with this and set history. There's no one that can take that from him. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think. What happens in the rematch? Will Joshua come correct to get it done, or is it the Andy Ruiz show again? Let me know some in the comment section. We working. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.